Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Peteman Reviews. Today we have a review of Make Toys Giant Type 61. As you can see from the guide in front of us, this is the third party version of Transformers Devastator formed from the Constructicons. So this might take a while, mainly because we've got 6 Constructicons here to transform into Devastator. Most of the construction is relatively straightforward, rather most of the transformation is relatively straightforward. However, that's not always the case, and at the end we'll have a look at Devastator and see what he can do. So, to begin with, as you can see, we've got our 6 Constructicons in front of us, and they look pretty good, don't they? Nice sizes to them all. They do complement each other quite well. Even Longhaul here, who is somewhat, I wouldn't necessarily say disproportionate to the rest, but he is definitely the most bulkiest of them all. Fits in well with them as well. So we'll begin by removing all the kibble. It is all used, so none of the bits you see here. So, for example, these hanging off, for example, bits like this hanging off, and the rear of these guys, the little power generators. You need all of it to make Devastator. So it's not necessarily kibble as such. Some of it fits better onto the construction mode than others. So, for example, actually Longhaul is the best example of this, where everything fits very nicely onto him, whereas Scavenger doesn't really have any place for his weapon. But you need all of them to build Devastator. So let's take off all the guns to begin with. We don't need these till the end, so let's get them out of the way. These do all merge together. Even the guns are combiners here, so we'll just take them away for the moment, as we don't need them for the rest of Devastator. Now, we'll take away the little power generators. We will need them in a bit. We don't need them just yet, so let's get them out of the way too. So, we'll begin off with Scavenger, or Excavator as they like to call him. Now, those of you who know Devastator will know that Scavenger is one of the arms. So, to begin with, this section here is what you need to build your Devastator. So to begin with, what you need to do is flip him up and then move the arms. So here we are. So you see, this is the part that you need. You actually need this part as well, but I'll come back to that. So we flip those up. We've freed them. There is a valid reason for doing so. Right, helps put that like that, and then this like that. These then go back, so the tracks that we just go back. So you see, this is where they came from. That slots into there. What is good about the Make Toys, nearly all of the Make Toys, is the fact that you have quite clear tabs for things. So you see, what we've got here is the upper part of the arm. This bit will slot into hook. This bit forms the rest of the arm. You can move this down if you wish. In fact, I think we'll do just that. So, what we now need are these little power units, power generators. They do break open, like so, and you have a hand. The hand is, of course, Devastator's. That's what we need. It's meant to go like that, so we'll just, as the hand rotates, it can be a left or a right hand, it doesn't make any difference, which is good because there's no way of telling between the two. They are identical. Now these will then slot into here. Now you can see there's little holding tabs here. There we are, you see. Now there's also little buttons on the side. When you push those in, it allows these to move so that you can disconnect. Obviously we don't want it to disconnect at the moment as we're slotting them in. I don't know how well this will come out in here at all, not at all, but trust me, there are 2 little slots in here for this to go in, so when it pops in and it securely pops in. You can pull that and it doesn't come off. So we now have an arm. Good starting point. So that's obviously Devastator's right arm. He needs a left arm. Now the left arm is Bone Crusher. Exactly the same process. The two are obviously very similar constructions, but particularly the underneath of them. It's just the top markings that's changed, but the tracks, and if we just unplug the tracks, you've got exactly the same here. Exactly the same type of connectors as well. So you can just simply do that to produce Devastator, and again you've got exactly the same tab here to be able to slot these back into position, so that you don't end up with the tracks flapping around. So as you can see, again, say exactly the same back into position. They are of course going to be a little bit temperamental because this part here does form the cross brace, but overall it works fine. So again, exactly the same as you can see. One more power generator, so same again, flip it up, out comes the hand, flip that down. Now bear in mind this is going to be on this side. You want to rotate the hand to make sure that you have the thumb up there, otherwise Devastator's a little bit awkward if he's got his thumb upside down. And again, that just slots in there, quite a firm hold again. The connection onto the hook, and there you have Devastator's other arm. So as you can see, we're starting to form our Devastator. So we'll just put these to one side for the moment, because what I think might be useful now is to do the leg element and to build him up from the ground. We could transform Hook now and attach these to Hook, but it does make it a little bit more tricky when you're then trying to attach Hook onto Longhaul. So we'll just put these to one side for the moment. Go on to Mixmaster. Now, Mixmaster, as you know, is one of the legs. In particular, he is the left leg of Devastator. It's actually one of the more easier transformations. What you want to do is you want to flip. I say what you want to do. This is obviously going to stick like this. You can even see here that this is the section which will connect into Longhaul. So we need to just move these up. I say just move these up. I can see this is going to be a little bit of a pain about doing it. It should just move, it should just rotate up that way. You can see where all the parts are there to rotate. It doesn't help that this is all quite, because there's so much bend here, you're trying to move things which don't really want to rotate. So there we go. With these flaps here which are a little bit in the way, so we just have to try and get the feet out of the way. There we go. That will now rotate. In case you didn't see, that was the edge of the feet was stuck on there, which is how it's meant to be in robot mode, rather in construction mode, but it makes it flipping difficult when you're actually coming to try and move it. That goes like that. That's basically it. The flexibility here now comes into play because it does give Devastator feet that actually move. Do you remember on the actual Constructicons, we said how Scrapper was the only one who had rotation feet, which helped with level service. Luckily Devastator's got that too, so it makes life a little bit easier for that. So, there you go. That is now the left foot and leg of Devastator. There isn't much more to it than that. As you can see, you've got the head of the guy in the back here. There's not really a lot you can do about that, but let's face it, you're basically looking at Devastator from the front. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So, Scrapper. As you know, again, he is the right leg of Devastator. Scrapper's a little bit more complicated to transform, mainly because you've got to try, because of these wheels. Whereas Mixmaster is a very simple base, the Scrapper is not. Start off by removing the engine. That forms quite an important part later on. You then need to move this, because as you can see, he's going to stand like this. So you need to rotate these so that ideally what you want to end up with is a way for him to kind of be able to stand and have this at such a point that it's level, and that's where things get a little bit more tricky, because As you can see, you rotate one, the whole lot rotates. But they should, yeah, they then unhook so that they rotate independently, but rotate, you have to hold one to make sure the other one doesn't go as well. Okay, so having now done that, you now have a fairly stable base like this. This is where this bit comes into point again, because this helps secure that. I'm using technical terms here, as you can tell. Now, where this actually hooks on is a little bit more tricky. I say a little bit more tricky. Excuse me 1 second, my cat is making a lot of noise. This doesn't happen on many reviews. Be right back. Okay, so apologies for all that. Drop me a comment on that. How do you make your cat shut up shouting when you're trying to do a video? Never mind. Okay, so what you need to do is the engine goes this side, this way in, and it basically joins. I'm not convinced that that's the right way, but I think it is. What this does is this will hook into the leg here to help bind them together. It doesn't look like it's going to do that to me, I must admit. But let's have a go. I am attempting to follow the instructions on here, and some of these on Make Toys are not obvious. So this is the bit here, and it's definitely got it going that way. Then it rotates it around again. So it's like, well, it doesn't seem to want to go in there. Okay, I think we all knew that was going to happen. Ultimately, while it does help bind the two together, it's not massively essential, because they don't move massively. It would be nice just to be able to do it. So I think what we're looking at here is slots in here to go in place. Does it feel secured? Certainly doesn't feel secure to me. I think it more likely it will go that way, but oh well, it's on. I don't think that's particularly right, but never mind. The main thing is what we have is a secure base for Devastator. That's level, and I think that's really what we want. I say it's really what we want. It's kind of what we want, isn't it? Now what you can also do is just move this part down as well, and that just gives a little bit more see, a little bit more strength there, and this flips down like that. So we now have Devastator's legs. Put them back for a bit. I'm going to work on Longhaul now to do his waist and his stomach. Now this is where Longhaul kind of starts to play into his own, because it's a bit of an awkward character in terms of this mode, but when you see all the stuff that he has to do to make Devastator, you see why. Start by removing this, put this to one side. We don't need it yet, but we will need it later on. We'll also take the opportunity to remove these and this. These are needed in a bit, but not just yet, so we'll put them to one side as well. Flip up the hood. This forms quite an important part later on, however, you don't need it just yet. Now, Longhaul's transformation is fairly complicated, as you end up with almost a robot version of it. It's probably one of the more trickier elements. See, these are clearly going to be the feet, but you almost have to completely transform him again. So we'll part these as well are parted, because of what you end up having to do later on. Now, the feet come out. This will form that element of it. You do then need to move the feet down here, the wheels down, as you do to transform him into a robot normally. This rotates. I'm just going to move these up to one side. So that rotates as you would again. That rotates as you would for his robot mode. These will slot back, and this also slots back from his truck mode. Again, this is all as you would start to get if you were making the robot version of long haul, but they're also part of his Devastator mode too. These comes down, this comes down as well. I've already got these kind of out of the way, and what you want to see is that hooking into that, so you get a fairly clear picture now. So that's like that. We're almost, because we're actually almost there. And again, this is very much what you would expect to see if you were building to go transform him into the robot. So it's almost a midway point between, also halfway between robot and his normal mode. What you then need to do, these then come out of the way. Again, this is flipped, so these kind of need to go behind the back here. It's a little bit of a tricky transformation, but it does work. So key bit is to slot these in, because these are what hook will rest on. The back is a little bit fiddly. So you hook one in, the back doesn't. There we go. I think that's going to break. I see what I've done wrong. You need to hook these up, get them out of the way. Same with this side, hook this up, get it out of the way. And it is purely these top bits here that have to join together. So there we go. This will form the stable base on which hook rests. These just go out the side or out the back, and these are the leg parts. It's all a little bit tight. It does work. Just about. It does work. But never mind. I almost want to just kind of, you almost wonder if you can do any more with these, but you can't. They just feel a little bit tight at the back, but never mind, it is what it is. The main thing is that they're on there. Okay, so remember I said about these? Do you know what? I think these do need to rotate round. There we are. Simple rotate round. I think this gets these out of the way a bit more. So when these join on, there we go. What I've done is these bits now no longer interfere with the wheels. So that will mean that Long Haul and Devastator consequently has got a little bit more movement. Okay, so these then just attach into there. So you see what would be his hands actually hold those. And we'll do the same on this side. So again, what would have been his hand just holds that. Okay, so our long haul is ready. So now we can begin with combining. So it's exactly the same principle as you had from before. These slot directly into the hole here. If you need to unslot them, there's two little tabs here. I don't know if you can see that, but there we go. So trying to get the light. So there's a tab there, and there's another one there. You can't obviously see. It's where my finger is. You push them together and that releases him. Might be a bit more obvious on here, this side. So tab there, and they will release your character. And there we are. Hey, I think we all saw that was going to fall out. I'm just going to put it to one side as frankly you don't really need it, and it does start to get in the way. So we quite obviously now are having Devastator starting to appear. Now he does need to have a little bit of rotation in his arms and legs, and luckily he has. I'm just going to move this up a bit, just because it does aid for the rotation. Because the way he is too close together for it to really stand fully upright. Okay, so as we progress with this, I'm clearly going to have to move the camera up, because already, and we're only up to half, well, it's just over halfway of our Devastator, and it is just within shot. Looking good so far though, isn't it? That is exactly what you'd expect to see from Devastator, is the obvious combiner bits. Move him to the back. I'm almost tempted to leave him at the back so it gives a little bit more clearer view. Okay, so what's next? I think we need to do Hook now. Hook is, you'll be pleased to know, a heck of a lot easier than long haul was. Long haul is by far the most complicated element to transform because it's halfway between his robot mode and his alt mode. The others are all just variations of their alt mode. Start off with hook. Just to make life easier for ourselves, we're going to remove the hook. This can be used in multiple ways with Devastator as well, as it can with Hook himself, and it's a lot more practical as well because Devastator is that much larger. So put that to one side. So remember before we said Hook doesn't have a waist because he splits in half. Let's split him in half. This is where it all pays back with the Devastator mode. What you've got here, this little tab here, it's a bit tricky to fish out. I say a bit tricky. It's quite a lot tricky to fish out. So it's going to be a little pain about that. Anyway, once we've fished it out, if we can fish it out, there we go. This will keep your character from flipping apart again because it literally holds that in place there. So it's a bit of a pest to pull out, but never mind, it can be done. Head flips up, so now we find a use for it. See, it's very off centre, but it does just rotate over here. See, there's a nice little gap there, and it rotates into the middle to produce Devastator's head. Now, this itself has got some variability to it, so head rise up, that's not to show whether he's got a brain or not. That's because you can make the glasses come down. So, little red tab there, and the glasses do come down. They are bit fiddly. They don't really want to come down. It's more the default mode. You do come with another Devastator head if you wish to fix it on, which looks significantly more like the original Devastator, but it doesn't have the mouth. It's pure almost replication of the G1 Devastator. This one gives you a slightly different, slightly more variant, as he can move his mouth, and also the light's a bit tricky to see. With the glasses down, it also makes him look a bit more like the G1 Devastator. So this is Hook. Now, the slightly tricky part comes into place now. I don't know how easy. I'm just going to crank this up a little bit because what you're going to do is this element here and this element need to slot in the gaps here and here. They will slot in, but they also are very easy to slot out as well. So you have to bear with me. So as you can see, you're trying to get this side to that side and this side to that side. So they will slot in, they just tend not to want to stay slotted in. So you might have to almost watch as I do this. This is probably the more complicated element of the transform. It's so complicated, it's not complicated at all, it's getting it to stay in that's the trick. So I'm just going to rotate these down here, get them out of the way so I can just lower that a bit more, otherwise they'll fall off. It's fine if it does fall off, I can put them back on, but I really want to get this part in because it's keeping that securely locked in. That's it now. See, it holds. If we lift it up, I think that's good to be able to do. So he's getting taller. We can rotate these back up now. I just wanted to get them out of the way. That seemed to be the main thing. And that holds up. Okay, his arms. I'm going to do his arms now and not the chest plate because the chest plate is a little bit tricky. So on this side, you've got a flip up here. Goes like that. Same on that side. Quite a nice touch because you don't really notice them at all on the Hook figure until you need them for Devastator. And the same process as with the legs. This element will now just slot in there. There we go. Secure steel hold. We'll just do the same on the other side. Scavenger's tracks have just come on a bit unstuck, so that's why I'm just re-sticking those in. Exactly the same thing. This is where you need somewhere to hold, and this is why I didn't put the chest plate in. There we go. Just want to make sure that's secure, and it is. there we are. We are almost there with Devastator now. You can, if you wish, lower these back down like that. It doesn't make a lot of difference. It doesn't make any difference at all. All the instructions suggest it should be up, but it's entirely up to you. The only reason I've lowered, let's leave them up. You can lower them just to make the aesthetics look a bit nicer, but it doesn't make too much difference. So, what have we got left? Well, we've got the traditional hook, we've got the chest plate and the gun. So, start with the chest plate. There we go. That's like that. It doesn't really have a home. Well, that's not quite true. It does have a home. It clearly goes in here, but there's no, with that, which goes in there, but it kind of rests on. So what you're aiming for is this bit here. There's a little hole here. You can't see it from there. There's another one there, and that fits into one of those bits. But as you see, it literally rests. And resting is fine. But as I say, it's kind of, it is literally a rest. And the downside of that is, well, let's say the downside of that is because of it. And actually, I've put it in the wrong place. That goes in there. See, there's a little bit tab there. So that definitely goes in that slot there. That goes in there. The middle bit doesn't. It kind of just clips on. So it will clip on, but because it's clipped, it's a little bit prone to falling off at times, which is why I wanted to put it on after the arms. Okay, so what do we have left? We have our hook. We're just going to put it in its traditional position to begin with, like so. We're still not done with Devastator, so before we just look at the robot in detail, here's the sound of kibble. Pointed down there. These are all Devastator's guns. They combine themselves to produce Devastator's gun. You kind of have to figure it out yourself, because while the instructions are very good, they don't give you any instructions on how to combine the gun. They give you instructions on how to make a bigger weapon combining these with the hook, but not for the gun itself, which is curious. So to begin with, extend the barrels from here, extend the barrel from here, flip this end up. They do stick combined together. This is going to be your end point for this. At this stage, you kind of really need to rely on the picture, because say they don't actually give you instructions on how to combine the weapon itself. These will both flip like, well, they will flip like that, but if you break it, don't worry, it's not breaking it, it's meant to come off. Or maybe not meant to come off, but it's built to come off if you do that. Don't worry. These will combine together themselves, because what you end up with, this is what Devastator holds on to. It looked like a magazine clip when the others were in their mode, but it's actually for Devastator to hold on to. These elements will also join together, like thus. This will then attach to the top of that. So you've got the holes there, top of that, and then all of them collectively go into the back of there. Yes? No? No? That's not right at all, is it? Yes, it is right, because this doesn't flip up at all. That goes on that, and then they slot into the back of that. There we are. A huge gun for Devastator to hold. And this doesn't have any clips for anything, so you do have to move the hand so Devastator can hold it. Which is fine. His hand's quite capable of doing that. I'm actually going to slot these back in. You can have them out, but I'm going to slot them back in just because otherwise it makes it a bit disproportionate. And again, a bit harder to hold. There we are. That is Giant Type 61, aka Devastator. A brilliant robot. This is the one fiddly bit, because it's just a fiddly bit. Ignore it. Okay, so detail is brilliant. You just look at the detail on that. There we are. There's the head, just to show that it actually, with the glasses, are down. But you just look at the level of detail on that. It's quite immense. This is where having all those different elements, all the detail highly the highly detailed parts of the Constructicons really come together to form a huge robot that is not lacking in detail at all. We'll just compare him to the Combiner Wars or Unite Warriors release of Superion. There we are. The two are nearly identical height. Superion is slightly taller, but it's only slightly taller. And as good as Superion looks, and he does look very, very good, he doesn't quite have the level of detail that this guy has. See, Devastator is just that next step up, and I think because of the bulk here, he looks tough. The bulk across the shoulders, in particular. Yeah, Superion's a little bit, and he's always been like that. These are the originals. It's a little bit tapered, a little bit thinner. He looks better than the original G1 because he's slightly thicker in some areas, but he's still a bit thinner all round than Devastator is. Devastator is built from muscle, and it really comes across in the robot here that he's a muscle character. He's not an intelligent character, as we know from the comics and things, but he's a muscle guy. And then you compare him to our G1 Skywarp commemorative release and the Combiner War smokescreen, give you an idea of scale. And actually, both of them go really well with the scale here. They do tower over, and that's what you want. You know, they're combiners. They should tower over. I mean, heck, the gun is almost the same size as Skywarp, but it is also the same size as Skywarp. It's also the same size as smokescreen. That feels right. You remember Blaster with the massive gun? That was so disproportionate to the rest of him. I know Blaster's disproportionate to most of the others anyway because of the size, but these feel the right scale. The robots, as we know, the individual Constructicons in their robot mode, same height as these. The Devastator is a good twice as tall. I think it's probably slightly more than twice the size of these, and that feels good. So we'll get these guys out of the way. Get this guy out of the way too. So just pull Devastator forward a little bit. There we are. And just for fun, as it were, that's the Micromaster, the 6-team combiner version of Devastator. They're slightly taller than the G1 guy, than the individual guys here. But just, I know the colours actually, I'm going to move them because the colours blend so well you can't really see him. He's about half the size of Devastator again. Just gives you an idea of actually the scale of this guy. I know these are combiners, so they're not meant to be replicated, but they replicate fairly well actually. So there we are. Just a little bit of how things could have been. So, what more can you say? The guy's huge. Posability is good. So, because he has the movable leg here, the gun just drop off a bit, he can actually strike a pose, as it were. He can move his arms quite considerably, so he can do different poses and things as well, which is good. While we're on the subject of poses, let's show you the hook and what you can do with that. So what you need to do is you need the hook by itself, obviously. What I might just show you beforehand is the finished. What we're aiming to do, here we are, is build this. So you need to disassemble the gun as well. The idea is it kind of makes a pretty big weapon of him. So to start off, we'll disassemble the gun completely into its different components. And then we reattach them onto the hook, and it kind of makes a weapon, another weapon for Devastator. Quite a good one as well. So take the gun completely apart, and then we need to figure out how they all go together. So we'll extend the hook as well. Don't know if we need to at this point, but we'll just do it, get it out of the way. Actually, just before I go too much further on this, the other version it suggests for Devastator is this actually snaps in two here, so you can have it like that. I'm not really sure why, or you could put it like that if you wanted. can't really see, can you, at all? You have it so it goes up and then down. Honestly, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can if you want. So there we are, just another function. Okay, so you want this end of the toy, and what you want to do is then put that down. You take these bits and you do a combining. So that into that. These will then clip on to the sides. Or you can drop them on the floor. That's fun as well. I say because it's not instantly obvious where the clip goes. I think it's meant to be like that. Yeah. I think like that. So what I've done there is taken this tab, which into this tab here. I think you probably have to have that down. No, I think I've done it the wrong way round. It's that side. It's the other way, other side round. That into that side. That into that side. There we go. That's correct now. Okay. These parts, we fully extend these. And they go. I'm having to look at the instructions here because, frankly, it's not obvious. I think this one is at this isn't extended actually. I think it slots somewhere here. Maybe into that gap there. Maybe not. It's I see. Two little gaps there, two little gaps there. It's fairly incomprehensible. Yeah, it doesn't feel right, does it? I think we're going to go this side because it kind of doesn't really fit. It definitely has got it on this side, looking at on the instructions, but because it's a bit of a tight squeeze here, really fit. Let's try it the other way round. No. Ultimately, if I can't make it fit, I'm not going to worry too much about it, because this is where it starts to get a little bit boring for you guys watching. Doesn't really fit, so right, ignore that. This bit claims to slot in there. Now, that's what it said before, and it certainly didn't. So I'm going to extend this. See, that one actually did slot in there. Just remove this arm. See? So two little gaps there. If I chuck that on the floor again, it won't slot in. Those gaps there, and that should just go into there. That was pretty simple. While we're here, let's try it on this side. Let's extend it this time. Yeah, I thought I'm good at throwing them on the floor today. It's because they're a little bit pop out. I'm going to try a partial extension at the back to make it slot in. There we go. Simple. Yeah, I don't know what the problem was. Now this is fully extended. You have that like that, and the idea then is that Devastator can hold it, and he's got quite a cool looking weapon. It's kind of like a dagger, or it's not a spear. It's too big for a spear. So I'm going to rotate this down so that he can somehow hold it. So if we put that in there, open up his hands, and hold that one. Then you kind of want the similar thing on there. Easier said than done. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move his thumb so it gets well out of the way. Whether it's anatomically correct or not, at this point it doesn't matter. It's all about balancing the weapon so that Devastator can actually hold it. This is where it'd be nice if you had little proper handhelds for him, because without that it's a little bit tricky. You get the idea. And it's pretty large. It's not a sword, it's kind of almost a, what would we call it, a spike, a javelin. don't know, but it's pretty powerful looking, if you can actually ever hold it. There we are, I'm going to leave it like that. There we go. So what you now have here is our Devastator has got a pretty killer weapon. Quite nice, unexpected to see it. It kind of puts him now on par with people like Menasor and Predaking, both of whom carry swords. Devastator never has, but this kind of gives him, I suppose you could call it like almost like a daggery sword kind of thing. So he too can now carry one and look pretty badass with it as well. So it's a little bit tricky to get him to actually hold it because there's no proper handhelds for it, but it looks very, very cool. So, long video this one. I think we kind of knew it was going to be a long video because not only is it a combiner, it's one of the more complicated combiners. And Devastator's always been a complicated combiner because he's not a Scramble City style. So that I think is all we can say on this one. Probably one of the best combiners out there. He looks tall, he looks intimidating, he looks bulky. He fits together very well. Longhaul is the hardest one of them all to actually combine. But once you've done it, you end up with a nice stable robot. He does have good movement. The bits, once you get them together, are secure. They're perhaps not the easiest of bits to put together to begin with, but once they are in place, they are nice and secure, and they're not likely to, limbs aren't likely to fall out. Good flexibility, a lot of accessories, and they all work together really well. Definitely one to get hold of. Not the easiest to get hold of, I have to say. You expect to pay a fair bit for him, but once you do get hold of him, yeah, it definitely looks probably one of the pride and place of your collection. Probably, I would say, is second only to Predaking. Now, I haven't yet got all the other combiners that have come out, but currently I would say Devastator is second only to Predaking. So there we are. That is the Make Toys Giant Type 61, aka the Constructicon's combined form of Devastator. Thank you very much for watching. Apologies it was such a long video. Please leave any comments below and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.